Maurice Nicol, Psychological Commentary, Volume 2, based on his work with Gurdjieff. This group met in Birdlip, February 10, 1945. The Doctrine of the Eyes, commentary on remarks made about the Doctrine of Eyes, Part 1 of 2. For a long time, we all try to base this work on our own self-evaluation instead of on the evaluation of the work itself. We try, as it were, to add the work onto what we are already. This is building on the sand, to use a metaphor from the Gospels. No one can add to the work to what he is at present, because that would be starting from nothing real. The work can only start from what is genuine, therefore obviously cannot start from what belongs to false personality. No one can eventually take the work on the surface of himself, that is, on the side of personality, but at first it cannot be helped. When the meaning of the work penetrates more deeply, we realize we cannot take it as something just added on to the surface of ourselves. The work is a radical thing that seeks to alter us radically in ourselves. Something was said about lying in a recent paper. Some eyes are more sincere and some eyes are less sincere in regard to the work, and most eyes hate it. A person may take hold of this work purely from personality without seeing its deeper implications. Then he regards it as an alternative to life and sees the work as being against life, and in fact sees it as an opposite to his ordinary life. He will then never understand that life can become his teacher. He will think merely that to be in the work, he must somehow or other give up his life and, as it were, go into a monastery where he gets rid of external life. But this is not the idea of the fourth way, which lies in life and is applied, if it is applied, to oneself in the midst of life. The work says nothing about giving up life, but it speaks a great deal about changing your relationship to life, that is, to your life personality, to yourself in life, and to others, supposing that through self-observation you begin to notice that you have eyes in you whose ambitions and motives you begin to dislike. Quite suddenly you come to the point of understanding what the work is about. That does not mean that you have to give up life. It simply means that you begin to approach life from a different viewpoint. You may, in fact, do everything better in life than you did before. You become more careful, not only towards life, but towards yourself. Your karma begins to change from that moment. The work very rarely speaks of karma. Karma is the tangle of cause and effect that you lay down in yourself by your actions. The idea of karma is introduced into the work in connection with the laws that we are under. The work says to begin with that we are under the law of accident, or the law of fate, or the law of will, but he adds later on that we are also under the law of cause and effect, which becomes the law of accident and the law of fate. If a man could do what he does consciously and without identifying, he would change his karma, that is, the line of his personal cause and effect in his life. He would then begin to pass under the law of his fate, which is a deeper cause and effect. And by changing his essence, he might come to the point of changing his fate and begin to come under the law of will. Of course, we would will this work and all that it teaches. We would transcend the law of accident and the law of cause and effect and the law of fate. The law of our fate is determined by the quality of our essence. In essence, lie stored up things we know nothing about that belongs to previous recurrences. You know that if essence is changed, we do not have the same life again, but if essence remains the same, whatever personality we build up for ourselves in life, we are destined to the same cycle of experiences due to the level of our essence. We will attract the same life, more or less, and be subject to the same trials and tribulations, the same difficulties, in fact, the same life. The idea is quite simple to understand. It means simply that what you are really, most fundamentally, will always attract the same experiences because you will them unknowingly. The object of the work is to change essence itself, where real will lies. If you have no power of self-observation, if you cannot see through your eyes, if you take yourself for granted, you will not change your essence. Supposing you go with eyes in your false personality and all the hopeless tangle of inner accounts that they make, if you have always wanted comfort or fame or wealth or praise, you will naturally have, as opposites corresponding these four things, a horror of misery or obscurity or poverty or blame. Let us take blame and its opposite, praise. Let me ask you this question. Do you think that what is most real and genuine in you, that is essence, can possibly grow through the desire for praise? I fancy it is not difficult to understand that it cannot do so. And here lies a very interesting side of self-observation, namely to observe how much of your ordinary happiness depends on being praised. Or again, take fame and its opposite, obscurity. Have you noticed in yourself that the eyes that wish for fame, all those eyes that wish to be better than other people, those eyes that wish to show off? I advise you to be rather amused by them because you will never overcome them. There is a certain inner laughter about oneself that is extremely useful in the work. These eyes that invent our lives and carry on this picture of ourselves are the eyes that we have to try to see because they keep our life in a continual lie, a continual outer restlessness, a continual self-justifying based on what a good boy am I. Remember, on one occasion when I was exceptionally full of self-justifying, Ouspensky said to me, in the presence of my wife, "Well, Nicol, is it true or not true?" And suddenly I realized it was not true, and I felt an extraordinary quietness in myself. I realized what lying meant and what lying eyes were, how I was lying. And from this, I gradually began to realize that all restlessness is due to lies, due to falsity, and that I was not like this lying eye, but I was quite something else that the work was trying to show me, that I had something real in myself, and all that I was continually trying to do and say was all pretending and keeping up some fiction that I had thought to be myself. This was one of my moments of understanding what this work is about. I began to understand what all this teaching about false personality meant. I began to see what imaginary I meant, and that there was something behind all this pseudo stuff that the work was trying to teach, was trying to reach and make one conscious of, and was not a loss but a gain. You must realize that this was only a moment of understanding, but it had about it a taste that one cannot forget. It was then possible for me to understand how most of our eyes tell lies, and how by means of lies they try to fight with the real life and also with ourselves and wish only to keep something going that is not ourselves. But how difficult all this is, and what a long struggle begins from this point of insight.